With Chainsaw Man Chapter 155,
Hold up. Wait a minute.
With Chainsaw Man Chapter 155, Fujimoto toys with us by both making us see the further gravity of the situation that Nayuta is in, while simultaneously letting us see that despite everything we've seen from Denji so far in Chainsaw Man Part 2, the man is still battling some very real demons, and that by extension makes you look at Nayuta's situation with a grim set of eyes, because if this is truly it for Nayuta, which it might be, then Denji is about to suffer a lot more than we thought. However, let's back things up a bit and let's unpack the chapter itself, because there's a lot to look at, including some stuff that we've theorized in the past that has now been confirmed. So we open up the chapter where the last one left off. Nayuta is being pushed into a corner by some of the citizens who have been spooked by the battle with Chainsaw Man that he just had, and Nayuta has been outed as a devil. Yet despite this, we still have some in the crowd who are saying, hey, wait a second, Nayuta, she's still only a child, and that the crowd needs to think things through before doing anything irrational. And for a moment, you might think this is going to work in Nayuta's favor until Barem ends up smiling a twisted smile, as he's already come up with a contingency plan that was put in place for this very situation. And if you don't already hate Barem for everything that he's done, you definitely hate him now. While none of the others in the crowd are looking at him, Barem takes the gun and he tests it to learn if there are any bullets. And when he learns there aren't any bullets, you can tell right away based off his actions exactly what his plan was. He was going to shoot himself in the head with the gun while pretending to be under Nayuta's control, all while the humans were looking at the situation, would get riled up and lash out at Nayuta in fear, not knowing that Barem, due to being a hybrid, will be fine regardless. However, not having any bullets doesn't stop him from pretending to be in danger and shouting for people to save him, and it plays on the very real human instinct and emotion that most of us have. With most people, if they see someone in trouble, they will just go to help them without any type of questions, or at least you would like to think that if most people saw, say, an old lady struggling to put groceries in the car, they would stop what they're doing to go help her out. And Barem is playing on that same line of thinking. He's trying to exploit that. He's not an old lady, but he is someone who's pretending to be scared for their life, because he knows he just needs one moment of shock and anger out of one person in the crowd to allow their emotion to cloud their judgment and lash out at Nayuta for something she isn't even doing. Then he can accomplish his goal of actually having her killed. This leads to Nayuta first trying to plead with the humans that are about to attack her that this isn't the case, but just as they begin to close in on her, we get the most dreaded thing you can receive during a time like this in the battle shonen, which is the almighty flashback, which usually doesn't bode well for the person having the flashback. Usually if you see a flashback during a time like this, that person's gonna die. However, Nayuta's flashback goes from making you feel concerned for her safety and her life being in danger to making you raise an eyebrow at the information revealed, because of the layers it's adding to Nayuta's character. We see her immediately after Denji gained custody of her, following the ending of Chainsaw Man Part 1, where Kishibe hands Nayuta over to Denji. Right away, we see more of what the end of Chainsaw Man Part 1 teased, which is that Nayuta might be her own person. There are still parts of Makima inside of her that are bubbling to the surface. We saw it in the way that she bit Denji's finger when they first met, a throwback to Denji and Makima's earlier interactions in early Chainsaw Man, and now we see it even further. She feels pity for Denji, and she finds herself wondering, why is it that she wants Denji's heart when she's laying on top of him and listening to his heart? She finds herself asking the question of who is she, and she uses her control power to go through Denji's memories to learn about the previous control devil, learn that her name was Makima, learn of all the foul things that Makima did to Denji to break his contract with Pochita, and Nayuta comes to the conclusion she needs to do the same thing to Denji. She knows he's empty inside, and so she comes up with the plan to cruelly fill all the things that are missing in his life by giving him the family he wants, by making herself Denji's family, because she thinks that she does try to walk in the footsteps of Makima, that she can at least learn what her purpose is in life. It's really good writing. A child who grows up with a parent missing, in this case Denji being the single parent that is raising Nayuta and Makima being the mother who left. Nayuta wants to learn more about Makima, hoping to learn more about herself in the process, and it's led to her coming up with reasoning that, albeit it is very ABC level in terms of the thought process you would expect for a child, We see what she meant when she said she would fill Denji with happiness and destroy him, because we see glimpses of the life that they used to live together. Denji walking the dogs, Nayuta walking the dogs, Denji and Nayuta having private conversations. It's during all this that we start to see the continued theme of nature versus nurture being shown, and we see glimpses of Denji breaking through to Nayuta, and she actually ends up enjoying herself. But we also see her questioning who she is, and we see the conflict on her face in the way that Fujimoto draws her eyes. She's conflicted, and Denji only adds that conflict that she's feeling by telling her that she is his family. And while we don't know when in the past this conversation happened, we at least know it stirred something inside of Nayuta and gave her more conflict to wrestle with, and it explains a lot of what we've seen in Chainsaw Man Part 2 with Nayuta's character. You can definitely see that Fujimoto is planting more seeds for a more in-depth arc with Nayuta as a character. Fujimoto then transitions us over to Denji speaking with his inner self while he's unconscious, who tells him that he can never really have the family he's always wanted because he's someone who killed his own father, and this was needed for Denji's character. It shows us that more of the events of Chainsaw Man Part 1 are starting to continue to weigh in on him. We hadn't really seen him address the deaths of Aki and Power. Instead, we saw him dive deeper into being this sex-starved addict, and now we're seeing the grief that Fujimoto is telling us that he's experiencing without directly telling us he's experiencing the grief. He's dropping the breadcrumbs and allowing us as the audience to connect the dots. He killed his brother in Aki. He wasn't able to save his sister Power. Makima filled both a mother role for him as well as a romantic role for him to a lesser degree. He lost so much throughout the last couple of arcs of Chainsaw Man Part 1, and now we're seeing more of what we saw in his brief battle with the Falling Devil, where we did see Denji was still mourning Aki and Power. Denji still has that baggage that he carries with him, and part of that baggage is the belief that someone like him cannot hope to have a family like a normal person. Throughout Part 1 of Chainsaw Man and Part 2 so far, we've seen the gradual dehumanization of Denji's character, and now we see Denji himself doing it via his subconscious thoughts to continue layering that in, which one means that we might be seeing Denji's character break through because he's now confronting his own inner demons, and also it makes that cliffhanger ending at the end give you a total set of blue balls because we don't see Denji's thoughts or hear his words on the stuff spoken by his inner self, and that's fine because this is a good example of less is more. We get more about how he feels based off of his facial reaction and the sweat that he has on him when he wakes up than any dialogue given by Denji could have revealed, which is good storytelling. Again, less is more. There are times where you do need to expound more. This was not one of those times. The one thing I do take away from this chapter is the fact that Nayuta used her chains on Denji, and that was something I was always curious about. If she would ever be willing to go that far to outright try to control or manipulate Denji, and we see in this chapter that she does to a degree. While Denji was asleep, Nayuta used her control power to see everything using those chains about her past life through Denji's eyes, and now we're seeing that even though as a reincarnation she doesn't have her whole memories, she wasn't reborn with them, she at least knows everything that Denji knew about Makima by viewing Denji's memories, which makes you look back to her interactions with Fumiko and with Fami a lot differently now, and how she got so jealous when she walked in on Yoru and Denji several chapters ago. Those were signs of Makima, which does make me wonder, is this why we haven't seen Reze yet? Because we are meeting the hybrids we saw in Part 1. Reze was an instrumental character in Denji's character growth in Part 1 of the series. Just makes you wonder what Fujimoto's doing there, because we now know that Nayuta has more or less gotten the memories of Makima through Denji. I do think we have a couple of red flags we have to pay attention to. A potential death flag for Nayuta in the future in an unexpected way, and another for a potential betrayal of Denji by Nayuta at the end of this nature versus nurture experiment that Part 2 has been conducting. And the thing that makes it so heartbreaking is that you can tell this is Fujimoto purposely playing on our emotions to set up a major heartbreaking moment in the future, and honestly, I'm all for it.